Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star's daily sports podcast. It's Friday, March 24th, and I'm Blair Kirchhoff. With another astonishing performance by its point guard, Markquis Nowell, Kansas State outlasted Michigan State in overtime at Madison Square Garden and has advanced to the NCAA Tournament's Elite Eight. That's one step away from the Final Four. On today's SportsBeat KC podcast, beat writer Kellis Robinett and columnist Vahe Gregorian break down the edge-of-your-seat East Regional semifinal, and in the middle of it all was Nowell, who set an NCAA tournament record with 19 assists to go along with his 20 points. Nowell's final 2 assists won the game. His lob pass to Keyontae Johnson from distance was finished with a back-to-the-basket slam to break a tie, and his inbounds pass to Ismael Massou on a clever play led to the breathing room jumper. Great stuff all around from Nowell and the WIldcats, who, with a victory over Florida Atlantic on Saturday, will reach the Final Four for the first time since 1964. Okay, let's get started talking Wildcats. You know, it was a good game when we spend a good 5 minutes before turning on the recording talking about the game. And that's how good Kansas State's 98-93 victory over Michigan State in overtime was on Thursday night in the East Region semifinals, the Sweet 16. It really was an amazing game, edge-of-your-seat stuff, breathtaking plays, and we'll get into all of it with Vahe Gregorian and Kellis Robinett. I don't know where to start. I'll tell you what, since I'm at the SportsBeat KC World Headquarters in Kansas City, and you were in the heart of the Big Apple, I want to know a little bit about the scene with Markquis Nowell and 3 teammates going back to New York City. Being there Wednesday, Thursday, and now through the entire time. Kellis, what did all the guys say about just going back to New York?
Just a dream come true, and the dream got even better last night when they won the game. I was worried coming in that maybe you'd see a little jitters from those guys. I mean, nothing on this green earth is going to make a New York City basketball player more nervous than playing a game at Madison Square Garden. But Markquis Nowell comes out, immediately throws a lob to Keyontae Johnson. Clearly, he's ready to go. Ismael Massou, I do think he was nervous because he clanged his first 2 shots, and when he got to the free throw line, he did really look like, oh my goodness, I'm standing at Madison Square Garden. But as soon as he got his first shot to drop, he was just unconscious. He scores 15 points, which I guess is the new norm from him. You get him open from 3, he's going to make them. So it was just extremely surreal. Everybody in the arena was just loving it. Not only is it this back and forth game. It's never out of reach, feels like a boxing match, but it's 3 Kansas State players who are from New York City. Naquan Tomlin also had a really good game out there making all these plays. And it's been the funniest thing I think I've seen throughout this entire NCAA tournament. I saw it in North Carolina too, was the faces on these people, the reaction they have after Nowell sends out these behind the back assists, these crazy no-look things. Like after seeing it 35 times, it's, like nothing new to me. I'm not like jumping out of my seat and hooting and hollering, but these people are like going crazy. Like, oh my gosh, did you just see that pass? They're seeing it for the first time. So for him to do that 19 times, and it just really hit home that, after the game, they honored him for setting the assist record with 19 and put his face on the video board at MSG. I mean, just think about how cool that is for a guy from Harlem to have that moment. Just unbelievable.
Yeah, there was. We didn't get to see that on TV. One thing I will, and you probably didn't get to see much of the TV coverage, although I noticed, Kellis, you referred to it in one of the stories that you wrote, and we'll talk about that, something Tom Izzo told TBS. But there was a comment by Jay Wright after the game, who, 2-time NCAA champion coach from Villanova, who's now in the studio, that I thought was pretty interesting. And he's just talking about New York City guards. It's not about the scoring or the bucket for them. It's about, creating the bucket in the play. And I thought last night was just this wonderful example of how Markquis Nowell dominated a game without scoring a ton of points, without going for 35 points, or like what Drew Timme did for Gonzaga, going for 36 to beat UCLA. But Markquis Nowell was in charge of that game last night, and he did it. What's cool is he does it in spectacular fashion sometimes. Yeah, still maybe, it's become commonplace to you, Kellis, because you've covered every one of his games. But yeah, to those that are watching him for the first time or just since the NCAA tournament started, it is spectacular stuff. I'm old school enough, and Vahe, I know we talk about our age a lot, but it reminds me of some old school stuff that you used to see from Pete Maravich, and Ernie D was another one. There are certainly more modern examples of guys that were terrific, passers and ball handlers, but those are two original ones for me. This was one of your first opportunities to see Markquis Nowell. What really impressed you about him and his game?
Well, a couple of things, Blair. I this is probably not exactly the right anecdote, but we had a little flash of the Willis Reed feeling last night too at the Garden with him coming back from the injury.
Yeah.
That he was kind of shrugging that off later, but when he went off the court, he needed two guys helping him, and he was putting no weight on that leg. So it was more worrisome than I think he made it out to be, but didn't look like he flinched much afterwards. All the things you said, Blair, really are exactly how I felt too. I was struck by this, Kellis, when we were walking into the locker room afterwards. You walked down a hallway with a lot of posters of people who've had amazing moments at Madison Square Garden. You see, here's Jimi Hendrix, here's Bob Dylan, here's Billy Joel, and somewhere in there probably were some sports ones. I didn't see those, but I just got thinking as I was going down the hallway that he's just added himself to that list, right? At the Garden, first time he's ever played in Madison Square Garden, despite being just a few miles from here. So a couple just quick thoughts and images from that last night. Kellis and I got talking about this being one of the greatest games we've ever been to, and undeniably it was. I mean, I can think of certainly 7, 8, 10 that I'll always remember, and I think this will be in that place. And part of it's because of meeting the moment this way and the result for K-State. I also remember, we had Michigan State fans behind us so close, their knees were basically in our back. And we were right on top of the court, pretty cool seats. And I remember at one point, on a night where we're thinking about his 19 assists, but he hits a bucket, fade away, off one leg. And I just heard that one of the Michigan State fans say, "Nothing you can do." And I think that became sort of the prevailing feeling about it. The last thing in this burst I'll say is I didn't get to use this in what I wrote. Kellis, maybe you did, but I don't think so. Jerome Tang said it well when he said all 10 eyes on the other end of the court have to be on Markquis Nowell. And that says a lot about how you have to play him. Izzo used the term mesmerized at one point. He was talking about a couple specific plays, but he said he thought the team was mesmerized by Nowell. That, I think, said it well, too, because we all were.
The comment that made me laugh is I heard some fans saying that after watching years of bad Knicks basketball, they thought that was the best game Madison Square Garden had seen in like 2 decades. So.
That's great. Let me add another name to my list of players who were just dazzling. I forgot about Earl the Pearl Monroe, who played in the Garden, right, for the Knicks, and was that type of player as well. I love that thought about all 10 eyes, having to be on Nowell. That's exactly right. Time and again, once Nowell beats his defender, it is game on for Kansas. Then he has options because what open cat is going to be available to him because they have to help on defense, and he always finds that guy. And when the Wildcats go 11 for 24 on threes, it's not just a guy at the basket, getting the assist for Nowell. It's Massou, it's Keyontae Johnson, it's other, name that player who can knock down the three. It was a terrific shooting performance. Kellis, you put it in your story really well. When Kansas State shoots like it did from deep, I don't care how much they get out rebounded. Michigan State dominated the offensive boards, or especially early. when Kansas State shoots like that and can get to the basket with Nowell, they are. I don't know who beats them.
Well, when they make shots, and even more importantly, they don't turn the ball over, they're pretty much unbeatable. And you told me coming into this game they were only going to commit 5 turnovers in 45 minutes. Well, first off, I'd have said they definitely win committing 5 turnovers, but then I said, how in the world does it go to overtime? It just kind of shows how elite Michigan State played on offense themselves be in this game. I will say Kansas State has been a smidge fortunate with some of the breaks in this bracket. They played Kentucky, who doesn't turn you over. They've played Michigan State, who doesn't turn you over. And now they're going to play Florida Atlantic, who also doesn't turn you over. Jerome Tang has got to be just thanking the basketball gods for that. I mean, it's certainly no given that you're going to win the games. These were all still toss-ups that they've been in. But taking care of the basketball, shooting it well has been a really big deal. And I wonder, Markquis Nowell has been so good in this NCAA tournament as a facilitator. I really wonder if coach is looking at him now to say, you know what, we've got to make him shoot. I don't care if he's making logo threes. I don't care if he's scoring 40 points. We can't let him keep racking up these assists. We can't keep helping, when he comes in the lane. That's probably what I would try if I was Florida Atlantic, because it seems like he's responsible for more points as an assist man than as a scorer anymore.
He had in the Kentucky game, I didn't see this until long after the game and long after we filed our stories, but I think I saw where he either in the second half, when he had 23 of his 27, he had scored or assist on 90% of the whatever the point total was for Kansas State in the second half. I don't think the percentage was that high against Michigan State, but it could have been. I don't know. I haven't put pen to paper. Maybe it was in that range.
I think I read for the game it was like 68% he scored or helped on 68% of the buckets. And if you want one more stat that shows just how important Markquis was in this game, the 2 minutes he was off the court, the one stretch when Michigan State dominated, they went on a 9-2 run when he was not on the floor, and he was mad about it. He was getting wrapped. He picked up a towel and threw it on the ground and was like, "This is ridiculous. Get me back in this game." But that was really the only surge that Michigan State had, and that's why it ended up going overtime, I think.
I want to say that only 2 was the bucket that Keyontae Johnson scored, throwing it off the back of the Michigan State player from under the basket.
Yeah. Great play by him, by the way.
It was. Gets the bucket and the assist. Hey, this is Blair. There are several ways to access the Star Sports section. Let me tell you about a couple of them. There is Sports Pass. For $12.99 a month, you get unlimited digital access to all of the Star Sports content, including beat writing, columns, features, pretty much everything we write. The deal renews monthly until you tell us to cancel. For $159.99 a year, you get everything the Star has to offer digitally, including sports and the e-edition. Go to kansascity.com and drop down to the bottom of the page where it says Start a Subscription for more information. Your support has never been more important. As always, thanks for reading and listening. One of the topics that we were covering before we came on the air was the last 2 assists for Markquis Nowell. He's sitting on 17, one away from the record for an NCAA tournament game, any game, not just a Sweet 16 game, but any game in the NCAA tournament. He's sitting on 17. Number 18 is the 35-foot pass to breaking Keyontae Johnson from the corner, who catches it with his back to the basket and slams it home. 52 seconds to go. That broke a tie. I believe that one broke a tie. Did it, Vahe?
I think it made it 96, 92, or
I think 94, 92 maybe.
94, 90. They never trailed again because I think Michigan State then hit one of 2 free throws, right. And I can't remember who it was now. Was it Ish that hit the next bucket?
Yeah. Ish hit the fadeaway too to put him up 3.
Right. Okay. So, well, let's talk about that. The pass, the highlight, the single highlight, not the single highlight, but the one that will be shown most prominently. That pass. What? So much happening here. I know that the TBS panel spent an entire segment breaking it down in the post game but before the press conferences, panelists disagreeing on whether it was, what the intent behind it was, and did Markquis Nowell go rogue on the play? So what all was said about the play, Kellis, that will live forever? Really, it'll be part of NCAA tournament highlights forever.
Well, a great deal of many things are said about this play. I don't know that we'll ever get a full straight answer. Taylor Eldridge had a good deep dive on it. You should go check it out on our website. After watching about as much slow footage as you could, his opinion was that you see Jerome Tang fold his arms on the sideline as he's coming up, and then he shows two, which means, in his opinion, the crossed arms meant we should do a lob to Keyontae, and the two means you should do it in 2 more seconds. And I would have to go back and watch. Now, they've run this play before. They beat Oklahoma State with a lob to Keyontae Johnson. They beat Kansas with a lob to Keyontae Johnson. They started this game with a lob to Keyontae Johnson. So whatever was happening, I mean, shame on Michigan State that they were just asleep at the wheel here and weren't, full on spidey senses trying to stop this thing. But that matches up. I'd have to go back and see if he crossed his arms in those other games. The interesting thing about it to me, though, is it reminded me a lot of, the play that Patrick Mahomes pulled off with Travis Kelce in that playoff game, where it was like, they kind of knew what they wanted to do, and he yelled, "Do it, Kells, do it, Kells," and he hits it. That to me is kind of what it was. I think it was Jerome Tang, Keyontae Johnson, and Markquis Nowell just kind of having a little banter on the sideline, only that they knew what was happening. And when their eyes locked, when Nowell saw Keyontae, it was game on. Here it is. But the funniest thing about this is, like, I went and asked the other players who were on the floor about this. I asked Cam Carter, was that the play call? And he's like, no. I was in the corner. I was supposed to cut the ball. We were supposed to do this. We were supposed to do that. That came out of nowhere. David Gasson was on the floor, and he's like, I had no idea what they were doing. I was expecting something else. So it's interesting that half the team just decided, you know what, let's go rogue here. Let's win this ourselves. We don't even need our teammates. So, and no matter what happened, it was a great play.
Well, the extra twist on it, and I hope we get the Zapruder film sometime and get the whole breakdown, because what I don't know is when in this sequence Nowell turned to the sideline to Isaiah Thomas and former Michigan State star Mateen Cleaves, who he just thought of as a friend of Isaiah Thomas's. He didn't know who it was, and said, "Watch this." I don't know. Did he say it before the little pretend kerfuffle with Jerome? Did he before the eye contact with Keyontae? I'd like to know when that was said. And it was funny. A friend of the Star, Adam Kilgore of the Washington Post, was sitting over on that side and was hearing the exchange going on. And it was good-hearted banter, basically. And he said that after the game, he asked Mateen Cleaves about it, and Mateen said, "I love that guy," talking about Nowell. So he's got fans even in the opposition camp.
Well, he's having the type of impact on Kansas State's run that Mateen Cleaves had in 2000 when Michigan State won its most recent national title. Cleaves was tremendous for the Spartans that year. So that's the first. That was assist number 18. Assist number 19. It was you're right. Michigan State, one of 2 free throws to cut it to a 1-point game. Kansas State had the ball out of bounds with, I think, 4.7 seconds to go. So they had to get the ball in quickly and get something up. We saw in the Kentucky game that the Kansas State ran a football play, speaking of Patrick Mahomes, a bubble screen to get the ball in bounds. This one, they needed to get the ball in bounds, and score. And they, again, ran some sort of, play, which there was no movement. You couldn't have other players out of bounds, but you had great kind of football movement on that created the opening for who was it that it wasn't Naquan, it was
Massou.
Ish Massou that popped open and on the baseline, and Markquis Nowell sent him a bounce pass that he found himself open and knocked down about a 15-footer or so that restored the 3-point lead. I thought just a great play, just a great out of bounds play. We're so used to praising Kansas and Bill Self for his creativity on out of bounds plays. I've seen a couple from Kansas State in this tournament that have just been as good as any I've seen. And Massoud's been shooting the ball so well in the tournament that once it left his hands, I said, I wonder if he's too close to the basket, because he'd hit a 30-footer earlier and been knocking down his threes. But he did. He knocked this one down, 97-94 lead for K-State. And Nowell had his 19th in NCAA tournament record assists. Kellis, what any chatter about that one afterwards?
I just thought it was interesting that it seemed like a low percentage shot that they got. Ismael Massou from 2-point range isn't really what you want. He's 40% pretty much from three. I can probably count on one hand the number of twos he's made this year. So not only to make that shot, but to do it with a guy right in his face, just kind of showed it was Kansas State's night. And very cool that it was two New York guys hooking up on that play that put him across the record.
And one thing, Kellis, I don't know if this looked like this to you sitting next to each other there, or if you saw it this way on TV, Blair, but they got that ball. It was at first what looked like an apparent air ball 3-point attempt by Nowell. And he had the presence of mind. I don't remember if it was called that way initially or not. I thought it was, but he pointed out that, it had been blocked. And sure enough, K-State ultimately was awarded the ball. I don't know if his argument was what got it done, but that could have been Michigan State's ball.
Yeah. I thought as soon as the shot fell where it did, I thought it had to have been tipped. You couldn't see it in live, but you just thought it had to have been tipped. But the other thing, if you're a Michigan State player getting in position for a rebound, you've got to know where the ball is and keep your eye on it. That's a ball that Michigan State could have corralled and started down the other way with. So in a 1 point, would have been at the time a 1 point game.
Yeah, good point.
Boy, the other thing that I loved how the game ended for Nowell, that he got the final bucket on the steal, while Michigan State seemed to pass up about 3 or 4 different, at least quick looks for a 3-pointer, looking for an even better one. And then Nowell finally slaps the ball and picks up the steal. One of the, I don't know which of the television announcers said this, but made a good point. If he doesn't get all ball there, that's a foul in the act of shooting a 3-pointer with Kansas State leading by 3. That was a risk that Markquis Nowell took there, but it paid off for him. And that, that one paid off for him. Him missing a couple of 30-plus 3-point attempts, one at the end of toward the end of regulation, and another, the one that was tipped to go out of bounds. I think questionable shots, but do you throw any caution to a player who's having the game that he is? Do you tell him, get him over in the huddle and harsh his mellow a little bit to I don't know if you say anything to him at that point.
Kellis, how did you say it last night that they were, you didn't say live by the sword, die by the sword, but I think you kind of made the point that whatever was going to happen was going to be, sort of his will, right? I mean, you weren't going to, and to your point, Blair, you just couldn't corral that.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to look at things a little bit differently with Markquis. His assist to turnover ratio last night was 9.5 to 1, which is obviously amazing. But you kind of have to always throw in like another number in there. With him, there's an assist to turnover to missed, like ridiculously long shots ratio. And you just gotta understand that he's gonna take 2 shots a game that you're like, that was dumb. And sometimes they go in and it's like, wow, that's great. But he does so much well that you just kind of got to live with him playing that way. And I think if you tell him, hey, dial it back a little bit, then you lose something else somewhere in the game. The only thing I would say, though, is that, hey, if you really wanted to reel him in a little bit, I would ask him, what do you think the other team would rather you do at this point in the game when you've had an all-time record 19 assists? Do you think they'd rather have you be facilitating or shooting a logo 3? Answer is probably they want you shooting that shot. So maybe look to assist a little bit more in those situations.
This was sort of a matter of necessity, but that 3-pointer he made when he had just come back into the game was not a good shot.
No,
it was the shot clock was running down. He was kind of circling out from down near the baseline and literally almost falling over. And when I asked him about it in the locker room afterwards, he said, "Yeah, it was a prayer," and and the prayer was answered. So that was kind of how it went for him last night.
Well, how about we talk for almost 25 minutes and we're just getting to that shot, which was an incredible moment in the game and tied the game. That was a big, stem that Michigan State had gotten momentum, right? From the Nowell just returned to the floor from his injury. And so, all right, one of the, probably something people don't know is when you cover an NCAA tournament and as you cover the first game, you don't watch a moment of the second game. So you guys did not see the Florida Atlantic victory over Tennessee, but all that's standing between K-State and its first Final Four appearance since 1964, when the Final Four was at Municipal Auditorium in Kansas City, is the Florida Atlantic Owls, the number 9 seed. They were pretty impressive, the comeback and that they made on the Vols, and Tennessee had pushed them around, had played so well, and then all of a sudden, this Florida Atlantic team did what it's been doing throughout the tournament. It just kind of turned into a buzzsaw. They're not big, but they did a great job on the boards in the second half against Tennessee. They get scoring from a lot of different places. You guys will learn more about the Owls today. They're coached by a person whose college basketball experience was being a manager for Indiana's for the Hoosiers. It's they're really a great story, and they would be quite the Cinderella team in college basketball. But Markquis Nowell has, he's the marquee guy. He has stolen the headlines. So I don't think there is a sentimental favorite in this one's on Saturday at 6:09 Eastern, 5:09 tip time here in the American time zone, as I like to say. So
you make I like that. I don't think I've ever heard you use that, but I'm going to start using it. Just that's a really interesting point, though, you made, Blair. That normally the so-called Cinderella in a regional final where there's 2 non-local teams, that would be the one that would surely be getting the sentimental boost. But with all these guys, with the 3 particularly from New York, with Markquis saying last night there were 200 people there to see him, that's going to be negated, if not obscured, by that factor. And boy, Kellis, we saw plenty of purple here to begin with, and not a lot of those people are going to leave, I don't think. So I think it'll be a pretty good K-State crowd.
I do too. In my experience, the last 2 times Kansas State was in the Elite Eight, played Loyola Chicago and Butler. I don't know what it is with these mid-major teams. It's all they seem to play in the Elite Eight. Unfortunately, they keep losing to them. So I don't know. I think maybe, I don't know. Not a great omen that they're playing Florida Atlantic, but totally different coaching staff, totally different regime. Maybe it doesn't matter. Anyways, my experience, K-State fans find a way to come in on the weekend and watch that Elite Eight game. So I assume you'll see some purple people show up. They'll find a way to get here, whether it's by train, plane, or automobile. That place will be packed. So it'll be a good game. I got to tell you, though, I'm sure a lot of people, most casual basketball fans, don't know much about Florida Atlantic. They're really good. They've won 34 games. Not only that, do they win a lot of games? They won a lot of games compared to expectations. They're 23-11 against the spread. They just really know how to win. A lot of seniors on their roster. They come at you in ways. They can shoot the ball. They can defend. The one thing they really can't do, though, is turn you over. So maybe Kansas State can turn that into another win here.
Just to expand on one point, Kellis, too, or you made too, Blair. I mean, so K-State has actually lost 7 straight Elite Eight games since going to 4 Final Fours between 1948 and 1964. So this is a fairly long-term thing to purge.
No, it is, and I'll be I really will be curious to see what the atmosphere is on Saturday. Not that the atmosphere has anything to do with the outcome of the game, but Florida Atlantic, like I said, in any other time or maybe opponent, Florida Atlantic, would be the darling, but with this Kansas State team playing in this city, in this building, I think they will be the fan favorite of anybody who's just a New York basketball fan. So
that's a great point. I don't think people are going to look at the seed and say, "Ooh, number 9 seed Florida Atlantic, we need to be cheering for them." I think this building, especially today when you walk around the streets and you see Markquis Nowell on the cover of all these sports tabloids, this city is rooting hard for him and Ish and Naquan. So they're gonna, even if it's not true K-State fans, I think they're gonna have the crowd on their side.
Cannot wait to see it on Saturday. I'll be covering the games in Kansas City tonight. Looking forward to that. It's been a fun NCAA tournament, and who knows, maybe we'll all meet in Houston next week. How cool would that be? All right, for Kellis Robinett and Vahe Gregorian, I'm Blair Kirchhoff. Thanks for listening to SportsBeat KC. That'll do it for today and this week on SportsBeat KC. Thanks to Monty Davis for producing today's show, and to our SportsBeat KC staff of Randy Mason, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen. Tip of the cap to Kellis Robinett and Vahe Gregorian for sharing their insights. Another cool thing about Morning Sports Edition is not only do you get to read what Kellis and Vahe and Taylor Eldridge and other reporters we had at the game said, you'll read reports from other writers who were covering the game. Plus, there's so much more about the NCAA tournament and everything else in sports. The address is liveedition.kansascity.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in Kansas City every day.